What if I told you that one actress could turn a beloved fairy tale into a Hollywood nightmare and tank her own career in the process? Rachel Zegler, the fresh-faced star Disney handpicked to lead their Snow White remake, is at the center of a drama so wild it's almost unbelievable. Disney poured over $300 million into this movie, expecting it to be a box office smash, a modern reimagining of a timeless classic. But when the curtains closed, the numbers told a brutal story. Snow White scraped together a measly $87 million, leaving the studio with a jaw-dropping loss. Theaters were empty, fans were furious, and Disney was left scrambling to save face. This wasn't just a movie that flopped, it was a full-blown catastrophe, a train wreck so massive it's hard to look away. But here's the kicker. Zegler didn't just sit quietly as the chaos unfolded, she fanned the flames with every word she spoke. Instead of defending her role or staying neutral, she went on the attack, trashing the original 1937 Snow White in interviews. She called it dated and weird, dismissed the prince as a stalker, and bragged about rewriting the story for the modern woman. Fans were outraged. Her words felt like a slap in the face to a beloved classic. Disney had high hopes for Snow White, banking on it to modernize a fairy tale and win over a new generation. But Zegler's comments, paired with the movie's disastrous reception, dashed those dreams in spectacular fashion. So, what really happened? Did she ruin Snow White, or was she just the fall guy for a much bigger mess? Buckle up, because this story is packed with controversy, shocking twists, and a career unraveling in real time. But the story doesn't end here. Behind the scenes, whispers of tension on set, clashes with directors, and a studio desperate to salvage the wreckage only add fuel to the fire. What really went down? Let's dive in and find out. The casting of Rachel Zegler was just the opening act. Disney wasn't done shaking things up. Next came the plot twists, and oh boy did they stir the pot. Word leaked that the remake was ditching the classic damsel in distress vibe. Snow White wasn't going to be saved by a prince anymore. She was reimagined as a fierce, independent leader. The Seven Dwarfs? They weren't even dwarfs now, just a band of magical creatures to avoid any hint of offense. Fans lost it all over again. Social media erupted with fury. "What's next, Snow White slaying dragons?" one fan tweeted sarcastically. Another fumed, "They're turning a fairy tale into a woke manifesto." The hashtag #SaveSnowWhite started trending, with purists arguing that Disney was butchering a timeless story. A viral petition to keep the original plot racked up thousands of signatures in days. The outrage was deafening. But Disney doubled down. Insiders claimed the changes were about modernizing the tale for today's audience. Zegler herself backed the shift, saying in an interview, "Snow White doesn't need a man to save her. She's her own hero." Bold? Yes. Popular? Not with everyone. Critics accused her of disrespecting the legacy, while supporters cheered the fresh take. "Finally, a princess with some spine," one fan posted. Then there was the dwarf drama. Replacing them with generic creatures sparked its own firestorm. Disability advocates called it a cop-out, arguing it erased representation rather than fixing it. "They could have cast little people and made it authentic," one critic wrote. The backlash piled on, and Disney's PR team scrambled to explain. It didn't help. By now, the remake was a lightning rod. Every change, every word, dissected and debated. The fairy tale fans once knew was unraveling, and the disaster was only picking up speed. Rachel Zegler didn't just defend her role in Disney's Snow White remake, she went full attack mode. In a series of interviews and social media posts, she took aim at the original 1937 classic, calling it dated and weird. "The story's from a different time," she said, and it shows. But she didn't stop there. Zegler zeroed in on the prince, labeling him a stalker for showing up uninvited and kissing her while she's asleep. The love story, she dismissed it as trash, saying it sent the wrong message to young girls. Snow White shouldn't need a man to save her, she insisted. She should be her own hero. Her vision for the remake was bold. This isn't your grandma's Snow White. This is a Snow White for the 21st century, a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a prince to rescue her. On paper, it sounded empowering. In reality, it lit a fuse. Disney fans saw it as a betrayal of a timeless tale. The remake, she promised, would shift the focus from romance to Snow White's journey to leadership, a princess turned powerhouse. But was this a fresh take or a demolition of a classic? The backlash hit like a tidal wave. "She's ruining a classic," One fan tweeted, "Snow White is supposed to be kind and gentle, not some warrior princess." Another raged, "Disney's lost its way. This isn't the Snow White I grew up with." The hashtag #HashNotMySnowWhite trended for weeks, fueled by memes, fan art, and videos tearing into the remake. Petitions demanding Disney save the original story racked up thousands of signatures. The outrage wasn't just loud, it was personal. Then came the social media bombshells. After the 2024 election, Zegler posted on Instagram, "May Trump, his voters, and supporters never know peace." Half of America erupted. "She's alienating half the country," one critic blasted. "Disney needs to rein her in." Days later, her Free Palestine tweet poured gas on the fire. Boycott calls spread like wildfire, with fans vowing to ditch the film entirely. Disney was caught in the crosshairs, reportedly hiring a social media expert to scrub her accounts and limit the damage. But the pot wasn't just stirred, it was shattered. Disney's response? A flimsy shield. "We support artistic freedom and encourage our actors to express themselves," the studio claimed in a statement. Behind closed doors, though, insiders whispered of chaos. They knew they had a PR disaster on their hands, one source revealed. They just didn't know how to fix it. The studio scrambled, but the blaze kept burning. Zegler's words weren't just controversial, they were a match to a pile of dry tinder, igniting a fury Disney couldn't tame. And yet, that wasn't the whole story. Something bigger was brewing. Picture this. Disney, the unstoppable titan of blockbuster remakes, drops a staggering $300 million on their Snow White reimagining. That's not just big money, it's a budget that towers over even some of their heaviest hitters, like The Lion King or Aladdin. They tacked on another $100 million for marketing, betting the house on a modern fairy tale that would dazzle the world. But when the curtains parted, the theaters were a ghost town. Row after row of empty seats stretched out like a silent rebuke. A stark monument to a gamble gone horribly wrong. Snow White didn't just flop, it crashed and burned in a blaze of infamy. The numbers tell a grim story. Insiders pegged the production costs at $260 million before spiraling to $300 million with endless reshoots. Compare that to Aladdin's billion-dollar haul, and the gap is nauseating. Box office returns? A measly $87 million in some reports, $200 million in others. Either way, a financial gut punch that left Disney drowning in red ink. Critics quipped the studio might need a Kickstarter to dig out of the hole. Social media turned into a feeding frenzy. Screenshots of unsold tickets flooded X, with entire showtimes marked available like a digital graveyard. One viral snap caught star Rachel Zegler giggling in a near-empty theater, watching her own film like it was a private joke. "Is this a premiere or a ghost town?" a user snarked. The hashtag #SnowWhiteFlop trended for days, a digital pylon of memes and mockery. "Disney's latest disaster," one reviewer sneered. "A soulless cash grab," another piled on. Over on Rotten Tomatoes, the film limped to a 37% from critics, with audiences barely kinder at 72%, a far cry from Disney's usual golden touch. And Disney, the studio that never stops hyping its next big thing, went dark. No press releases, no spin, just an eerie silence that roared louder than any apology. Their modern reimagining was DOA, a $400 million lesson in overreach. But with the wreckage laid bare, the blame game kicked into overdrive. Who tanked this cinematic train wreck? The controversial casting, the tone-deaf marketing, or something rotten at the core? The answers weren't simple, but the knives were already out. The fallout from the Snow White remake's box office disaster was nothing short of a wildfire, and everyone was ready to toss someone else into the flames. The blame game kicked into overdrive, and the scene was pure chaos. Accusations flying, loyalties crumbling, and the truth buried somewhere beneath the wreckage. First up, Jonah Platt, yes, the Jonah Platt, son of producer Mark Platt, couldn't keep his mouth shut. He took to social media with a vengeance, unloading on Rachel Zegler like she'd personally torched his family's legacy. "She's a narcissist," he posted, his words dripping with venom. Her non-stop political rants alienated half the audience and sank this film. He didn't stop there. Jonah dropped a bombshell. His dad had hopped a cross-country flight to confront Zegler face-to-face, begging her to dial it back. But Rachel? She wouldn't budge an inch. "She thinks she's untouchable," Jonah raged. "She's out of touch, and her ego cost Disney millions. The numbers don't lie." Then there's Gal Gadot, the evil queen herself, who played a different game entirely: silence. While the internet buzzed with speculation, Gadot stayed eerily quiet, her every move, or lack thereof, scrutinized. Whispers started swirling that Disney had gone out of their way to keep her and Zegler apart after Rachel's not-so-subtle pageant queen jab at the Oscars. Gal's a pro, an insider dished. She wasn't about to get dragged into Rachel's mess. Fans, of course, smelled blood in the water. "They're feuding, no question," one tweeted. "Gadot's dodging the drama. Smart move." Was it a calculated retreat, or was there more brewing behind closed doors? The silence only stoked the fire. And Disney? Oh, they didn't exactly ride to Zegler's rescue. The studio, usually masters at spinning a PR crisis, took a shocking step back and let her twist in the wind. "They're cutting their losses," a source revealed. Rachel's the fall guy here, but she's not the only one who screwed up. The question lingered like smoke. Was Zegler being scapegoated to shield bigger failures? Or had she dug her own grave with every unfiltered word? The truth's murkier than a poisoned apple's core. What happened next would leave jaws on the floor. Rachel Zegler's star isn't just dimming, it's crashing to earth in a blaze of controversy and missed opportunities. Once the toast of Hollywood, with a Golden Globe for West Side Story gleaming on her shelf, and Disney's Snow White poised to cement her as a household name, she's now stumbling through a career nightmare. Her Broadway debut in Evita at London's storied Palladium was billed as her triumphant return to the stage, a chance to silence doubters and flex her vocal chops. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of hubris, missteps, and a plummeting reputation. The Evita debacle kicked off with a scene straight out of a fever dream. Zegler, draped in Perón-esque glamour, stepped onto a balcony to serenade a gaggle of freebie fans outside with "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina." Meanwhile, inside the theater, patrons who'd forked over as much as $500 for the privilege were relegated to watching her on a fuzzy screen. The optics were disastrous, an A-lister crooning to the streets while her paying audience got a glorified live stream. Social media erupted. "I didn't pay for balcony karaoke," one ticket holder raged online. Memes multiplied like wildfire. "Zegler's out there singing to the pigeons while we're stuck with a Zoom call," another jabbed. It wasn't just a PR blunder, it was a full-on implosion. The fallout hit hard and fast. Ticket sales, already shaky, nosedived. Performances that should have been packed played to half-empty houses, the silence in the stalls louder than any applause. In a move reeking of desperation, the theater slashed prices to pay what you want, a humiliating downgrade from premium pricing to begging for spare change. "It's a fire sale on a sinking ship," one critic snarked. Her name was supposed to sell out shows, not clear them out. The numbers didn't lie. Zegler's star power, once blinding, was flickering out. Next up, a pivot to a low-budget indie film, a project so under the radar it barely registers a pulse. Gone are the days of Spielberg blockbusters and Disney fairy tales. This is a stark, unglamorous come-down. No glitzy premieres, no Oscar whispers, just a quiet fade into obscurity. It's a jarring shift for a star who once commanded the spotlight with ease. She's gone from leading lady to indie footnote in record time, an observer noted. That's not a career move, it's a retreat. The whispers from Hollywood's inner circles are even bleaker. Insiders are branding her radioactive, a talent too toxic for big studios to gamble on. "She's got baggage now," one producer reportedly muttered. "Too much drama. Not enough box office pull." After West Side Story's critical buzz and a Golden Globe win, this is a vertiginous drop. A freefall from Golden Girl to industry pariah. Is this the end of her leading lady era, or can she claw her way back? But the story doesn't stop here. Behind the scenes, rumors swirl of on-set tensions, creative clashes, and a star who might have burned too many bridges. The next chapter's brewing, and it's darker than you'd expect. The whispers from the Snow White set tell a story wilder than any fairy tale. Crew members, speaking on condition of anonymity, paint a picture of chaos, ego, and a star who refused to play by the rules. Rachel Zegler wasn't just difficult. She was a force of nature, storming through the production like a hurricane. She wasn't mean, but she was stubborn as hell, one insider revealed. She acted like she'd been in the game for decades, not like this was her first rodeo. The clashes started small, minor disagreements over wardrobe, a quibble about lighting. But then they escalated. Zegler began challenging the directors over the script itself, pushing for changes that fit her vision of a modern, empowered Snow White. She'd argue over every line, a source spilled. She wanted Snow White to be a leader, a warrior, less singing with birds, more battle cries. The directors, seasoned pros with decades of experience, were stunned. She thought she knew better than the script, better than the legacy, another crew member claimed. It was like watching a rookie tell a coach how to run the game. The tension thickened with each passing day. Zegler's insistence on empowerment edits reportedly led to heated debates in the writer's room. She'd storm in demanding rewrites, a production assistant whispered. She wanted Snow White to reject the prince outright, to lead the dwarfs into some kind of revolution. It was a lot. The crew was split. Some admired her passion, others rolled their eyes. "She's talented, no doubt," one said, "but she's not running the show. Or at least, she wasn't supposed to be." Disney, caught in the crossfire, faced a nightmare. The studio pushed the release date back, sparking a flurry of speculation. Some insiders claimed it was to slash Zegler's screen time, trimming her role to minimize the damage. "They're cutting her down to size," a source hinted. Others insisted it was to let the buzz die, to bury the controversy under months of silence. "They're hoping people forget," another whispered. But you can't unring a bell this loud. The signs of Disney's retreat were everywhere. Toys vanished from shelves like they'd never existed. Posters disappeared from stores overnight. The marketing machine, once roaring, fell eerily silent. It was as if the studio wanted to erase the entire mess from memory. But could they really edit out a star who wouldn't stop talking? Zegler, undeterred, kept the pot boiling with every interview, every tweet, every unfiltered thought. And now, the final twist. A revelation so shocking, it would leave even the most jaded Hollywood watcher reeling. What did Disney uncover that could change everything? Hey, so let's dive into this mess with Disney and the Snow White remake. It's wild, right? Picture this. Disney's gone radio silent, and it's not just quiet. It's like they've locked the whole thing in a vault and thrown away the key. Usually, they're all about the hype, but with the Disney Plus release creeping up, there's no buzz, no big push, just a sneaky little drop into the streaming abyss. It's like they're hoping we'll all forget that $300 million disaster ever happened. Smart move, honestly. Why fan the flames of a flop when you can just let it fade? Meanwhile, behind the scenes, it's chaos. Word is, execs like Bob Iger are sweating bullets. Not just over this, but over a whole string of stumbles. They're not just tweaking plans, they're tearing up the playbook. Safer bets is the new mantra. Think classic vibes, crowd pleasers, nothing too risky. Rachel Zegler's whole modern woman spin on Snow White? Yeah, that's toast. Disney's not touching it anymore. Too hot, too divisive. Her big talk about diversity trumping story isn't winning her any friends in the boardroom either. It's more like a punchline now. And Zegler, she's out there swinging, calling it a misunderstood masterpiece every chance she gets. Part of me wonders if she's just in denial. Like, girl, the ship sunk, stop rearranging deck chairs. Or maybe she's desperate, clinging to anything that might save her rep. Either way, it's a bold play, but Disney's already checked out. They're not backing her up, not even a little. Her secret fan base claim, those quiet fans who supposedly adore it, sounds like a fairy tale she's telling herself. So, where does that leave us? Disney's dodging bullets, Zegler's fighting a losing battle, and this whole saga's got more twists than a grim story. But here's the kicker. Something tells me this isn't the end. What's next? Another flop? A comeback? Or something we can't even guess yet? Disney's not saying a word, and that silence is deafening. The Snow White Disney Plus drop is coming, but there's no fanfare, no big push, just a quiet release to bury it. Insiders claim execs like Bob Iger are rethinking how they greenlight projects. Burned by this and other flops, they're shifting focus to safer bets, leaving Zegler's modern woman vision in the dust. No one's defending her bold DEI rants now, where she said diversity should trump story, or her claim that a secret fanbase loves the film but won't speak up. The studio's moved on, but Zegler keeps fighting, calling it a misunderstood masterpiece. Is she delusional or just desperate? So, where does this leave us? Snow White wasn't just a flop, it was a wake-up call for Hollywood. Rachel Zegler's journey from breakout star to cautionary tale happened faster than anyone could have predicted. Her unfiltered rants, the empty theaters, and her career's nosedive paint a picture of ambition gone wrong. But here's the real question. Was she the villain who torched her own future, or just a pawn in Disney's misfired gamble? Maybe it's both. One thing's clear. This fairy tale lost its magic, and Zegler's paying the price. Can she claw her way back with a killer role? Or is this the end of her Disney era? I want to hear from you. Is Rachel Zegler down for the count? Or does she still have a shot at redemption? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This story's far from over, and I'll be here to unpack whatever twist comes next. Stick around because Hollywood's drama never sleeps.